Hello there, everyone. Owen O'Leary here from the Tuition Centre. Very soon you're going to be facing a paper that looks a lot like this, Leaving Cert Examination 2022 Mathematics Paper 1. Today I'm just going to go through the layout of the paper and some predictions for what might come up in that exam. So this year's paper is a little bit different from previous years. However, some things remain the same. The duration of the paper is 2.5 hours, and the marks in this year's paper are what they were historically: 300 marks for paper 1, 300 marks for paper 2, 600 marks in total. Last year, if you recall, it was a little bit different. There were 220 marks for both papers. So the instructions and what you'll have to do is section A, what we call the concepts and skills, or maybe known as short questions. 150 marks. There are 6 questions. It says any 5 questions from section A must be completed, but that means your best 5. So if you do 6, your best 5 will be chosen. At the time of the pre, most people will just be doing 5 because you might not have the whole course covered. So there might be one section that you're not able to attempt at that point, and that's fine. Section B is what we call the context and application, or problem solving questions, worth 150 marks, and there are 4 questions. You must cover any 3 from this section. So again, it's your best 3. One thing that, if I was a betting man, I would bet that you haven't spent as much time covering the problem solving questions as you have the skills questions, the short questions. But again, that's normal at this time of the year. And the reason is because you have to cover all the skills, really, or a lot of the skills, before you start practicing the problem solving. It's later on in the term where you really start to focus in on that, and later on in the year where you focus in on the problem solving, because that overlaps a lot of the topics. So you'll have your instructions there. Sometimes at this time, people wonder about the calculator. So you're just typing your calculator make there. It's no big deal. But what it is this: there's a couple of calculator types that are out there that are not allowed in the exam. And in a nutshell, you can ask your teacher if you're unsure. But if your calculator can do integration and put in the limits, that's not allowed. So look up there at the top left-hand side of your calculator. If you see a button that has the integral sign, maybe that's, you want to double check. Some people ask, can you bring in 2 calculators? The answer is you can. Just write down both makes. So some people bring in the Sharp and the Casio because they might like both. Not that you have to, but some people do. Predictions for paper 1. So again, these are predictions for the Leaving Cert exam based on what's come up in the last number of years and what has not come up. So again, as always, we use this to focus in, to help us prep for what we think is most likely, but we don't necessarily cut out anything based on it. From my analysis of the previous papers, I would certainly say simultaneous equations is very, very likely this year. Either type, that means either one linear, one nonlinear, or the 3 equations with 3 unknowns. Okay, I would make sure I practice those and be very confident in them going into the exam. Binomial expansion is one that I think is due to come up. It could come up as an algebra question, or